Since the inception of American film and TV, westerns have been an in-demand genre. However, in the 1950s and 60s, the popularity of gunslingers and cowboys exploded. American audiences had a voracious appetite for these types of stories. Among them was the popular TV series Maverick. This series follows Bret and Burt Maverick, two brothers who travel the American West looking for adventure, fortune, and, of course, games of poker. Maverick starred James Garner and Jack Kelly as the two titular brothers. It ran for 5 seasons and totaled over 120 episodes. Though the show was never in short supply of great storylines, there were also a few interesting stories happening behind the camera. For example, James Garner, the lead actor, sued Warner Brothers and quit the series. Keep watching as we take a closer look at James Garner's feud with the series and other stories from Maverick. Garner became upset with the studio. Though the storylines would switch back and forth between the two Maverick brothers, James Garner clearly emerged as the star. Things went swimmingly for the first few seasons, and Garner was blazing a trail, becoming a huge name in the Western genre. But things became rocky between the star and the studio when, in 1960, the Writers Guild went on strike. All of a sudden, there were no new scripts in Hollywood. That meant no new episodes. This included the weekly scheduling of Maverick. Garner had signed a 52-week contract with Warner Brothers. Even though the show was a hit, he was only making a paltry $1,250 a week. Now that Maverick had come to a halt, the studio decided to lay Garner off. They claimed that no scripts meant no pay. James Garner was finally fed up with the studio's treatment. He took action. Garner sues Warner Brothers. James Garner was tired of forces within the studio pulling him every which way. The writer's strike gave him the opportunity to sue the studio for breach of contract. Turns out he had a compelling case. He won the lawsuit easily. At this point, the studio was willing to offer him a raise or a new contract. However, Garner had such a bad experience under his first contract, he wanted to step away from the studio. He claimed that while he was attached to Maverick, he had no control over his career. Away from contractual obligations, Garner could make his own decisions on his roles. If he was going to be a success, he wanted it to be his own doing, not the studio. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like. And be sure to subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. And stick around for some more Maverick stories. The studio tried to replace Garner. Although they lost James Garner, Warner Brothers was not ready to cut bait on Maverick. The show is still a popular option in their TV lineup. What's more, because of the structure of the series, where the episodes would flip-flop between Garner and Jack Kelly, Maverick still had half the show intact. Unfortunately, Kelly was the less popular half. Warner Brothers' idea was to find someone who resembled Garner to fill his role. They tapped the little-known Robert Colbert to take on the role. In his memoirs years later, James Garner claimed Colbert was supposed to be a complete look-alike. They dressed him in the same costumes and gave him the same mannerisms. Technically, his character was not the same Bret Maverick, but a new brother called Brent. All this was to fool the audience. Garner wasn't the only one to notice this. Even Colbert himself understood the tactics. He was afraid what it would do to his career. Instead, he jokingly pleaded with the studio to, quote, put him in a dress and call him Brenda, anything to avoid the comparison to Garner. They added a Maverick Cousin. The studio brought in another Maverick, too. Future James Bond star Roger Moore was cast to play cousin Bo Maverick. For season 4, the stories alternated between the 3 family members. Although the new trio of Mavericks posed for photos together, they never met on screen. Originally, the two-brother team-up episodes were a regular occurrence, yet the studio never came up with a storyline that featured all the actors together. The tactic didn't really work. Colbert and Moore both left the series, and the 5th and final season only featured new stories with Jack Kelly. They almost cast Sean Connery. Although Roger Moore was cast in the role of Bo Maverick, the studios originally wanted a different James Bond. The character Beauregard Maverick was written to have spent the last many years playing cards abroad in England. Along the way, he was said to have picked up an English accent. Beau's debut episode was even called Bundle from Britain. Therefore, they wanted an actor from overseas. The first person they had in mind was Sean Connery. It was clear Connery was on the cusp of a major breakthrough in Hollywood. Warner Brothers flew him out to the studio to woo him, but Connery turned the role down. He intended to make a bigger splash with American audiences. Warner Brothers recycled episodes of Maverick. As mentioned, the Writers Guild went on strike in 1960. This disruption affected more than just Maverick. Another show during the same years called The Alaskans suffered for content as well. This show, which weirdly also starred Roger Moore, focused on the adventures of gold prospectors in 1890s Alaska. When the scripts stopped rolling in, Warner Brothers had an idea. They saw the story similarities between Maverick and the Alaskans. As such, they recycled old Maverick scripts to make new episodes of the Alaskans. The strategy was seen through by many. Roger Moore recalled that when he read the scripts, he recognized them as Maverick episodes with the names changed. This is possibly among the reasons that Alaskans was canceled after only 37 episodes. One episode paid homage to Casablanca. Just because Maverick was a Western didn't mean it couldn't pay tribute to one of the greatest movies ever. The episode in Season 2 was called Escape to Tampico. It's set in a bar called La Cantina Americaine. Right off the bat, this is a nod to Humphrey Bogart's bar in the film, which is named Rick's Cafe Americaine. However, Maverick went even further. The set for the show was created from the bits of the original set from the movie. Even the costuming of the series was very similar. Actor Gerald Moore, who looked very much like Humphrey Bogart, wore the white Panama suit from the film. This was just one example of the cool cutting-edge ideas Maverick had during its run. James Garner returned for the Maverick movie. Even though James Garner left the series on a bad note, he returned to the Maverick universe. In 1994, director Richard Donner was tasked with rebooting the show into a film. He chose Mel Gibson to play the part of Bret Maverick. Donner had worked with Gibson many times, including on the Lethal Weapon franchise. Bret Maverick has all the same attributes and quirks as the original. He's a deft card sharp, silver-tongued, and full of adventure. While the lead was filled, there was still the major role of Marshal Zane Cooper. It's only fitting the part went to James Garner. While it was very cool for Garner to be a part of Maverick once again, he later found out they originally wanted Paul Newman. Garner was only selected after Newman declined. The character of Zane Cooper is ultimately revealed to be the father of Bret Maverick. So while Gibson took on the new mantle, Garner was still part of the Maverick family name. Now it's time to hear from you. Was Maverick better with Garner? Would you like to see Maverick rebooted today? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already.